Wesley Bates from the Cornell Lake Erie Research and Extension Lab in Western New York. We are a part of Cornell University and the New York State Agricultural Experiment Station. And our primary mission at the lab is to support Western New York agriculture, specifically the Western New York grape industry. And so we get a lot of questions at the lab about grape production in New York State, and we thought that we'd start answering some of these questions in short videos because a picture says 1,000 words. So if you look at grape production in New York State, most of the grape production regions are moderated by some body of water. So down on Long Island, there's about 2,000 acres of grapes, mostly on the North Fork of Long Island, and that's moderated by the maritime climate of the Atlantic Ocean. And there's a few hundred more acres going up the Hudson River Valley that are also moderated by those ocean waters. We have an emerging industry in our northern, colder climate counties, east of Lake Ontario and over by Lake Champlain. In Niagara County, on the other side of the state, there's been a long time grape industry, and it's been growing in the last decade, and it's very similar to the Niagara on the Lake area in Canada in terms of its environmental conditions moderated by Lake Ontario and as well as its soil conditions. The most famous probably area in New York State for grape production and wineries is the Finger Lakes region, so these lakes that were carved out by the glaciers have given a nice geographical advantage to growing tender fruits in the area. So the glaciers carved out the lakes, and they have these nice hillsides, and the cold air will pool down towards the lakeside, keeping it warmer on the hills, and that's where the vineyards are located. And where I'm from is in Western New York, about halfway between Buffalo, New York, and Erie, Pennsylvania, is a great region for growing tender fruits like grapes. And if you look at the production in our area, all those little purple dots represent the vineyards that are in area, so you can see they're very concentrated along the lake shore. In terms of the number of acres that are there, in Long Island there's about 2,000 acres. In the Finger Lakes there's a little under 10,000 acres, and then the outlying areas have less. If you combine all of the acres in New York State and then double them, and that's what we have in Western New York. So there's about 32,000 acres of grapes in our region. And if we zoom in on Westfield, which many people consider the juice grape capital of the world, and it's called that because most of the grapes that are grown in there, probably about 95% of the grapes grown in this region, are of the variety Concord or Niagara, which is used for juice and jelly production. So if you buy Welch's grape juice or Wegmans jelly that's made with Concord, most likely you're getting grapes from our area. We have a growing wine industry as well. We have about 24 wineries in the area now. And so we grow varieties other than Concord and Niagara, although I still like to tell people that east of the Rocky Mountains, in terms of volume, Concord is still the #1 wine grape in the eastern United States. So why do we grow grapes in Western New York, and why do we grow them right up against Lake Erie? So we get this great moderating effect of lake area. So the primary function of lake area is influencing our vineyards, but I like to say we get a cumulative effect of all the Great Lakes. So as cold air masses come down from Canada, it crosses all this water. That water moderates the air temperature, and that makes it better for our tender fruit production. The other thing that we have going on in the region is a rise in elevation. If we zoom in here on the belt, so as that air crosses the lake, there is about a 800-foot rise in elevation. So when the air crosses the lake plain, it then will swirl, and that keeps our climate very unique. So in the spring, the air is cooler, and that holds our buds back. They're nice and tight, and so that prevents damage from spring frost, so holds us back till we get through the threat of spring frost. In the summer, we can get an oasis effect where clouds and rain will form up the hill as that air moves across and rises in elevation, but will stay sunny down on the lake plain, and that's good for photosynthesis and producing grapes. In the fall, we get an extended fall period because of that warm air coming off the lake. But of course, the negative part is that we are also in the lake effect snow belt band. So we get a lot of snow that comes off the lake. Moisture is picked up by the air from the lake, and then it dumps that snow right on our region. So if you like to shovel, this is also a great place to live. So that is just a very quick overview of the Lake Erie region. In other videos, we'll be talking about the research we do at the lab and how that influences production in the region.